If you thought February was intense, well, wait till we get into March. March is the month where we are continuing with eclipse energy. It's getting intense. There's a lot of action occurring. There's a lot of changes, a lot of momentum, but also a lot of diving back into the past and dealing with past situations, hence Mercury retrograde. We've got a lot of things to get through in the month of March. It's gonna be a very interesting month to say the least. A lot of build, a lot of action, a lot of changes. So let's get into it. Aries rising, welcome to your March horoscope. So March is a month that is action-packed, and it is a very important month because it's eclipse season. We've got a lunar eclipse happening in March, Mercury retrograde continues but does go direct, and Jupiter also goes direct in March. And then we also have a positive alignment between Saturn and Pluto. So let's jump right in. Now we've got a lot of Pisces energy occurring in March. We're going to start off with March the 2nd when Mars, the planet of action and stamina, enters Pisces, entering your 12th house. Now this area of life is going to be a very busy area because we already have Mercury retrograde in this area of life, and with Mercury retrograde there's a lot of dealings of the past because the 12th house is associated with the past experiences, past themes, feelings, emotions, situations. And then here comes Mars into the 12th house where it has to also unpack a lot of stuff. It has to go through a process of understanding some of its frustrations, energies from the past that it's accumulated, and it's ready to also let it all go as well. The 12th house is the last area of life, so when you have planets in the 12th house, it's a lot of unpacking. It's a lot of dealing with the past. Now, Mars is very action-orientated, so it can run into a lot of frustration, but this energy supports for creativity. If you feel like you have a lot of energy and you need to put it somewhere, put it into something creative, a creative hobby that can really support you in channeling a lot of that energy that you have. Now, with the 12th house, we also got a new moon happening. We got a new moon happening in Pisces on March the 18th at 28 degrees. The new moon is about new beginnings, new journeys, new starts, planting seeds, initiation. So this is a time, again, that supports creativity. It supports art, inspiration, dreams. That's where there's going to be a lot of focus in the month of March for you. But also there's a lot of focus with your Aries energy because it's also going to be Aries season on March the 20th where the sun enters Aries, and that's when we're going to have the spring equinox. So the sun will be in your first house, a happy solar return to those celebrating. We've got Venus entering your sign on March the 6th. So both the sun and Venus entering your first house focuses a lot about you, your identity, where you're headed in life path, purpose. Relationships is a big one because the goddess of love and relationships will be in your sign. So there'll be a huge concentration there, also in how you appear, how you look. You may be very much concerned with beauty, aesthetics, fashion, creativity, all that Venus rolls over. But also remember that you've got Neptune and Saturn in your sign. So the first couple of days of when Venus and the sun enter your sign may be at a time where you're more serious. So for example, when Venus enters Aries, and it will be in a conjunction with Neptune, but it also will be in a conjunction with Saturn. Therefore, even though Saturn is much more faster than Neptune, Saturn and Neptune are still in a conjunction. So where typically Venus and Neptune, it's a very romantic energy. It is very just all about love, and with Saturn's influence, it's more about reality. It's more about being realistic and knowing your responsibilities in relationships, and there may be a lot of patience required. So there may be some lessons to be learnt in the first couple of days of these transits, but this energy is favoring you, it's supporting you, and it's all about you because it's in your sign. So you can expect a lot of focus on love, relationships, your heart center energy, creativity, and also there's some lessons to learn with this energy. Now let's move on to the lunar eclipse. So we've got a lunar eclipse happening in Virgo at 12 degrees on March the 3rd. This lunar eclipse is a total lunar eclipse, and it's a south node eclipse. The south node has to do with the past. Lunar eclipses, meaning a full moon on 1,000, has to do with chapters coming to an end. closure, renewal, and transformation. This is happening in your 6th house. This is energy you're familiar with because you've gone through this eclipse energy last year as well. So there's a focus on your daily life routine, habits, organization, wellness, how you take care of yourself, as well as work. So there's a transformation occurring there, especially if you have planets in either Pisces or Virgo at 12 degrees or close by. But there's a transformation happening. There may be an ending. And because this is a lunar eclipse, it's more got to do with emotions and sentiment, and there could be an emotional ending, an emotional release, emotional transformation regarding the 6th house for you. Now let's get into some positivity. March the 10th, Jupiter goes direct. Jupiter has been in retrograde in your 4th house of home, family, your sense of belonging, and where you go to retreat. Now this energy is going direct, meaning it's moving forward. Therefore, it's expanding this area of life. It's about learning and accumulating and integrating the lessons that Jupiter has taught you over the few months. And now it's time to move forward and expand, because Jupiter brings expansion into our life. And for you, it will be regarding matters of home, family, and where you feel safe, secure, and your sense of belonging. Now we have Mercury also going direct on March the 20th, which means any situations and energies you've had to deal with connected to the past, or you've had to kind of reevaluate, reassess, it's time to now move forward, okay? We've got a positive energy occurring between Saturn and Pluto. So Saturn and Pluto will be in a sextile. This energy is occurring at the end of the month on March the 28th. So these two energies are super strong, and because they are in a positive alignment, this is supporting you. Now, because Saturn is in your sign in the 1st house, this has to do with you and your life path and purpose, where you're headed. And then you've got Pluto in the 11th house, ruling over friends, groups, networks, as well as hopes and wishes for the future. So these two areas of life, the 1st and the 11th house, are supporting one another. So there could be new opportunities found in these two areas of life through this beautiful alignment. Now, at the end of the month, March the 30th, we have Venus entering Taurus, which will enter your 2nd house, joining Uranus, although Uranus is almost done with its transit in Taurus. So there will be with Venus a focus on finances, resources, and also relationships, because Venus is a goddess of love and relationships, but the kind of overall energy is about resources and what you own, okay? So I'm wishing you all the best, Aries, Aries rising, and I will speak with you soon. Take care, and lunar eclipse blessings. Hey Taurus, Taurus rising, welcome to your March 2026 forecast. March is another action-packed and intense month. We got another lunar eclipse on the way. Mercury is retrograde during March. It does go direct, and another positive is Jupiter goes direct also. And then another positive energy, Saturn and Pluto will be in a positive alignment. So there's a lot to unpack. Let's get straight into it. Now, in the month of March, there's a lot of Pisces energy. March the 2nd, the planet of stamina, momentum, action, Mars is entering Pisces into your 11th house. So you're going to be a busy person during March. There's a lot of moving around energy, a lot of socializing, because the 11th house has to do with your social life. It has to do with friends, groups, networks, as well as your hopes and wishes for the future. Now, even though Mercury will be retrograding in the sign of Pisces in your 11th house until March the 20th, Mars is going to support you to get things on the way. Even though it may feel like there's a lot of things all over the place, or you take one step forward and you end up going 2 steps back, because retrograde energies are about going over things, Mars is going to support you in making that journey, making that energy a little more easier. So it's going to support you to get things done in regards to the 11th house. So a lot of socializing, a lot of focus and impact on friendships, groups, networking, and hopes and wishes for the future. And something positive that's occurring is we've got a new moon in Pisces happening on March the 18th in your 11th house, which is going to be at 28 degrees, conjunct Neptune. Even though Neptune is in Aries, it's close to Neptune, which is its ruler. So it can really support you in this area of life, especially if you have any hopes and wishes regarding artistic endeavors, creative endeavors, or spirituality. This can be a very positive energy. March the 3rd, we have a lunar eclipse happening in Virgo, and this will be impacting your fifth house. This Virgo eclipse is occurring at 12 degrees, and it's a south node eclipse, meaning it's closer to the south node. The fifth house is a house of fun, play, it's about creativity, it's about your inner child, and it's where you find a lot of joy. This area of life can also reveal a lot about relationships and romance and dating. Now, because this is a total lunar eclipse and a south node eclipse, there's a lot of focus on the past, focus on endings and letting go, releasing, things coming to an end, transforming, which means changes. So this area of life has been very strong, especially since last year, because that's where the eclipses have been occurring in the Pisces and Virgo axis. But in 2026, we're coming to an end with the Pisces and Virgo eclipses. So during this time, emotionally, there could be something that is transformed regarding the fifth house. So it's when I think of like you got a lunar eclipse in the fifth house, I think of a lot of inner child healing. That's what I think about with the fifth house in a lunar eclipse, because the moon represents emotions, and when we look at childhood, we look at the moon as well. When we look at the fifth house, this is where the inner child lives, so there could be some healing occurring there. There could also be letting go of certain things that you used to do for fun, and perhaps you're maturing in that sense, and or your hobbies and what you do for fun is transforming as well, because this is also the house of joy. What you find joy in is transforming, so there can be certain things coming to an end there as well. So it's a great time for an emotional release and a lot of emotional healing. Now let's get into all the Aries energy, because March the 6th, we've got Venus, the goddess of love and relationships, entering Aries, which means it's entering your 12th house. We also have the sun entering your 12th house on March the 20th. So a lot of focus on the 12th house, which is a convoluted area of life. It rules over a number of things. It rules over the past. It rules over dreams and more sensitive parts of self. It rules over your creativity, your connection to the universe, spirituality, intuition. So there's a lot of focus there. In terms of relationships, when you have Venus in the 12th house, this is associated with the past. So matters of the past resurfacing, or kind of navigating or dealing with that, regardless if you're in a relationship or single. That's what the 12th house kind of connects to, the past. But also in terms of relationships, because the 12th house has a lot to do with emotion and sensitivity, it can also be very romantic and have it can be a great opportunity to get closer emotionally as well. And then we're also going to have the sun in Aries, which kind of amplifies that energy as well. Now remember, we've got Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So in the first week, the first couple of days, it may be a very realistic time where things are really coming into perspective, and you're having to kind of really come to terms with certain aspects of relationships or past relationships and where you're headed with relationships. But nonetheless, it's a time of growth, okay, because Saturn will support you in that. March the 10th, Jupiter goes direct, so it's time to now move forward in the area of life of communication and movement and travel and ideas. This energy is expanding forward now, so that's a positive. Another positive is Mercury goes direct on March the 20th, so all the lessons that have been coming up, it's also time to move forward with them. We have a special energy happening between Saturn and Pluto. It's happening on March the 28th, so we've got a sextile happening between Saturn and Pluto. So Pluto is currently in your 10th house of career goals and ambitions, and Saturn is in your 12th house. So it's almost like career goals and ambitions and your intuition, creative endeavors, spirituality, they're kind of aligning together and can support you in moving into a positive direction. Now at the end of March, March the 30th, we've got Venus entering your sign. So that's going to bring a lot of creativity, a lot of harmony, because Venus is your ruler. It's bringing a lot of abundance, love, and romance into your life. So that's going to be a great time for you. And more about you when we get into April, because it's going to be Taurus season. So I'm wishing you all the best, Taurus, Taurus rising, and I'll speak with you soon. Take care. Hey Gem Rising, welcome to your March 2026 horoscope. March is eclipse season, Mercury retrograde season, but we also got a lot of positivity because Mercury's going direct, Jupiter's going direct, and we've got a really nice alignment between Saturn and Pluto. So let's jump straight in. We've got a lot of Pisces energy happening in the month of March. So Pisces rules over your 10th house of career goals and ambitions. You've got Mercury retrograde that is currently in your 10th house, and Mercury retrograde is making you reevaluate, reassess this area of life, perhaps make some changes, but this area of life will start to really move forward on March the 20th when Mercury goes direct. Now, we also have planet Mars, the planet of action, changing from Aquarius into Pisces. So it's going to move out of your 9th house into your 10th house, which is going to bring a lot of drive, a lot of energy, and really support you to make those changes, okay? And then we also have a new moon happening in Pisces at 28 degrees on March the 18th, which is marking a new beginning, a new cycle. It's a seeding point, and if there's something you've been working hard towards, this is a time where it can move to a new direction, or it can develop further. You can make some progress. So if you've really been focusing on your career goals and ambitions, this is a great time this month because there's a lot of focus and a lot of energy in your 10th house of career goals and ambitions. Now, we also have a lunar eclipse happening in the sign of Virgo at 12 degrees on March the 3rd. This eclipse is occurring in your 4th house. This is an energy you've already gone through because last year the eclipses were in Pisces and Virgo, and this is kind of like a finale energy. And because it's a south node eclipse, there's a lot of focus on the past, and it's about home, your family life, your roots, where you find security, and it's about sense of belonging, where you go to retreat and heal. Because it's a total lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo, it has a lot to do with emotion. So there may be like an emotional release, there may be like an emotional transformation occurring, but a chapter, a cycle, the karmic kind of lessons are coming to an end, and it has to do with your 4th house. Now, we also have a lot of Aries energy occurring in the month of March. We've got Venus, the planet of love and relationships, entering Aries, meaning it's entering your 11th house of friendships, groups, networks, and your hopes and wishes for the future, bringing a lot of creativity. And because it will be conjunct Neptune and Saturn, there's a lot of creativity, inspiration, but also a lot of maturity and discipline involved in how you approach that creativity in your 11th house. We're also going to have the sun entering Aries in the spring equinox happening on March the 20th, which is amplifying this area of life. So there's also a lot of focus on friendship, social life, and your hopes and wishes for the future. Now, Jupiter goes direct on March the 10th in your 2nd house of resources, what you own, and money manifestation and abundance. This energy is also now expanding further. So take the lessons you've learned in the last couple of months, and now it's time to apply them and move forward. We've got Saturn and Pluto, which will be in a sextile on March the 28th. This is a positive energy occurring between Saturn and Pluto. Now, Pluto is currently in your 9th house, which is impacting your mind, your perspective, faith, as well as travel. And then you've got Saturn in your 11th house of groups, networks, friendships, hopes, and wishes for the future. So these two areas of life are also coming together, and there may be some new venture opportunity moving forward in a positive direction. March the 30th, planet of love and relationships, Venus enters Taurus, so it's moving out of your 11th house into your 12th house, which rules over dreams, sentiment, emotions, spirituality, creativity. So there can be a lot of creativity and inspiration here, working with your creative gifts and abilities. There may be also past relationships or matters of the heart that are connected to the past that come up that need to be addressed during this time. Or you may, if you're in a relationship, just feel very romantic and there's a lot of sentiment and emotion to be shared. So Gem Rising, I'm wishing you all the best this month. Take care, and eclipse blessings to you. Cancer, Cancer rising, welcome to your March 2026 forecast. So we've got eclipse season, Mercury is in retrograde, but it does go direct. Jupiter, which is in your sign, also goes direct, and we've got a positive alignment between Saturn and Pluto. So let's jump in. We've got a lot of Pisces energy occurring in the month of March. So we've got Mercury retrograde happening in your ninth house of your mind, higher learning, beliefs, as well as faith and travel. So there's a lot of reevaluating and reassessing this area of life, but this energy will go direct on March the 20th. But also, as soon as we kick off March the 2nd, Mars, the planet of action, moves into your ninth house. So it seems like Mars is really eager to learn, eager to do a lot of studying, reading, researching, learning, and expanding its horizon, and it may be very much wanting to move around and travel as well. But you got to be careful with Mercury retrograde, especially because it is in Pisces and the mutable signs. There may be some delays or things not going the way you want them to go or as planned, but Mars is coming in with a lot of energy. It needs an outlet. So the best outlet for Mars in the ninth house is dive into those books, research, read, go over things. It needs to get its mind into something, and it is going to be expanding your mind for that as well. We also have a new moon occurring in this area of life, March the 18th at 28 degrees, and this is going to be a seeding point, a new beginning, a new chapter, perhaps a new opportunity as well regarding learning, higher learning, your beliefs, spirituality, foreign places, or even travel. So a lot of ninth house energy happening in the month of March. Now we also have a total lunar eclipse happening in Virgo at 12 degrees on March the 3rd. This lunar eclipse is happening in your third house, an energy you are familiar with because that's where the eclipses have been occurring from last year, both in the ninth and the third house. This is a south node eclipse, so there's a lot of emphasis on endings and past situations coming to an end and a close. And there's also like an emotional release here because it's in the third house. It has to do with the mind and communication. There may be a certain conversation or communication that is had that kind of brings closure, emotional closure as well, or you kind of have like an epiphany during this time, or you're being very logical and you're analyzing and you're kind of like reflecting on certain past situations, and during this process you may come to some closure just through your mind as well, from what you have gathered and what you have recollected and how you are logically wanting to move forward. So there's some type of emotional release and healing coming on its way, and a transformation. We've got a lot of Aries energy occurring as well this month. So on March the 6th, Venus, a planet of love and relationships, enters Aries, impacting your 10th house of career goals and ambitions. So this may be a time where there's a lot of creativity involved with career goals and ambitions, perhaps a new creative endeavor that you are very thrilled about. And also because the sun is going to move into Aries on March the 20th. That's when we have the spring equinox. There's a lot of energy amplifying this area of life and lighting it up. Remember, we have Neptune and Saturn. So Neptune and Saturn, although Neptune is really bringing a lot of inspiration and creativity, Saturn is there like really disciplining you and supporting you to get more realistic and get into a routine of discipline to accomplish and achieve some of the goals that you have for yourself. Jupiter is going direct on March the 10th. It's in your sign, so it's bringing a lot of abundance and growth and expansion. And now that it is moving forward and it's going direct, it's going to be really expanding you more regarding life itself, what you want from life, the direction you're headed towards. Just reflect on the lessons that you've learned regarding Jupiter in the first house in retrograde in the last couple of months, and how you're moving forward with them, how you're applying them and integrating them. And now this energy is really going all in for you. We've got Venus entering Taurus on March the 30th, which means it will be impacting your 11th house of friends, groups, networks, and hopes and wishes for the future. This may be a time where you're very social, you're having a very pleasant time with friends, and you're also working perhaps on creative projects regarding your hopes and wishes for the future. We've got a positive aspect between Saturn and Pluto happening on March the 28th. So Saturn is in your 10th house of career goals and ambitions, and Pluto is in your 8th house. The 8th house rules over shared resources, intimacy, and deep spiritual transformation. So these two areas of life kind of working together, and there may be a new possibility, a new adventure occurring. So Cancer rising, I'm wishing you all the best during this time. Lunar eclipse blessings, and I'll speak with you soon. Take care. Leo rising, welcome to your March 2026 horoscope. It's a lunar eclipse season. We've got Mercury retrograde, but it does go direct this month. We also have Jupiter going direct. And another positive is Saturn and Pluto will be in a positive alignment this month. So let's jump straight in. We've got a lot of Pisces energy happening in the month of March. So you already have the sun in Pisces in your 8th house of shared resources, intimacy, deep spiritual transformation. Mercury is also in this area of life, retrograding. So there's a lot of past situations coming up that you're having to go over, reassess, reevaluate, perhaps some changes on the way as well. And then also Mars on March the 2nd will enter Pisces, joining the sun and Mercury as well as Venus in your 8th house. So there's a lot of energy in the 8th house, a deep concentration and focus regarding what you own or share with someone else in terms of resources. Perhaps this has to do with relationships and intimacy, or perhaps this has to do with like deep transformation occurring in your life. So there's a lot of energy, a lot of momentum, a lot of revisiting old situations, but there is change happening in this area of life, okay? So a deep concentration. We also have a new moon in Pisces happening on March the 18th at 28 degrees, happening in your 8th house, where there could be, with all that energy, all that focus, all that momentum with Mars and stamina and focus, there could also be this new beginning, this new cycle, a new change of progress and development occurring because we've got a new moon happening in the 8th house for you. So take a look at your chart if you have any planets in either, well, mostly Pisces at 28 degrees or close by. We also have Neptune in Aries, but it will be in a conjunction with this new moon in Pisces because the new moon in Pisces is at 28 degrees, like right at the end of the Pisces energy. So this is also amplifying creativity and spirituality, emotion. You just got to be very careful with just looking at things with rose-tinted glasses. So progress and development is on the way regarding your 8th house with that new moon in Pisces happening on March the 18th. Let's talk about the lunar eclipse. So we've got a lunar eclipse happening in the sign of Virgo at 12 degrees, happening on March the 3rd. This is impacting the 2nd house. The 2nd house is very much of what you own in your life, from finances, resources, money mindset, money manifestation, abundance, and also this has a lot to do with self-worth and values. So because this is a total lunar eclipse and it's a south node eclipse, the south node has to do with the past karmic cycles, and a lunar eclipse has to do with endings and cycles coming to a close. This is a lunar energy. Lunar, the moon, has to do with emotion, so there could be this emotional release, this emotional transformation from the past that has been kind of lingering, and an energy, a cycle that comes to an end. Now, this energy is something you're familiar with because since last year you have been going through the eclipses in your 2nd and 8th house. So this is like a finale. So all that you've been going through, these energies and these eclipses are coming to an end. So it's time to really look back and reflect, what have all those eclipses meant for you and how do you want to move forward? And then maybe this emotional cleanse, this emotional cycle closure coming on its way during this lunar eclipse for you. Moving on, we've got also a lot of Aries energy happening for you. So we've got Venus, the goddess of love and relationships, entering Aries on March the 6th, joining Saturn and Neptune in your 9th house of your mind, your higher mind, learning. This is where you can also find some of your spiritual beliefs, faith, and travel. You've got the sun also entering Aries on March the 20th, the same day we have the spring equinox. So there's a lot of energy in this area of life. You may take pleasure and joy in traveling and learning, and your beliefs at this time may be developing and you're very passionate about them. And also with Saturn and Neptune, there's a lot of realizations coming in fruition as well. So this area of life is very much highlighted as well. There may be some travel involved with the Sun and Venus in the 9th house, or even just expanding your mind and your horizons. Now, March the 10th, Jupiter goes direct in your 12th house. So, whatever lessons have been coming up for you with Jupiter in retrograde in the 12th house, especially when it comes to matters of the past, when it comes to perhaps how you feel, emotions, dreams, creativity, your connection with the divine, the universe, your spiritual beliefs, this energy is now also going to move forward with Jupiter going direct. And so, this area of life and these energies will start to expand further. Mercury goes direct on March the 20th, so a lot of what you've been learning in the last couple of weeks, that's also going to start to now move forward in your 8th house. We've got a nice sextile between Saturn and Pluto occurring on March the 28th. So you've got Saturn in your 9th house, and then you've got Pluto in your 7th house. So the 9th and 7th house are coming together in alignment. There may be a new opportunity, a new adventure, new energy that occurs connected to both of these areas of life. And Pluto in the 7th house has a lot to do with relationships and other people, whereas Saturn in the 9th house has to do with kind of like your worldview, perspective, spiritual beliefs, faith, education, higher learning, and travel. We've got Venus entering Taurus on March the 30th. Venus in Taurus will enter your 10th house of career goals and ambitions. So this area of life will be full of creativity, joy, and there may be a lot of passion and pleasure experienced in this area of life. Venus in the 10th house is always lovely to have. So I'm wishing you all the best, Leo rising. Happy lunar eclipse blessings, and I will speak with you soon. Take care. Hi Virgo rising. Welcome to your March 2026 forecast. You're one of the main characters of March, if not the main character of March, because you've got a lunar eclipse in your sign. It's a big month, and you also have Mercury retrograde in your opposite sign. You got a new moon happening in your opposite sign. It's all going down in March. Many changes happening. So let's get straight into it. I want to start off with March the 2nd because we have Mars, the planet of action, entering your opposite sign Pisces. Now you already have a lot of energy with your opposite sign Pisces, which is all happening in your 7th house of other people, relationships, and partnerships. So during this time, the start of March, you're going to have the Sun in Pisces, Venus in Pisces, Mercury retrograde in Pisces, and then March the 2nd, Mars in Pisces. All that concentration is happening with relationships. So it seems like there's a lot of energy, a lot of build-up, perhaps a lot of back and forth with relationships, especially due to Mercury retrograde, and also a lot of changes and a lot developing with relationships. It could be a relationship that you've been in for a while, or someone you're seeing, dating someone from the past, or if you're not in a relationship, it could have to do with some particular person in your life or a partnership. So that's where the focus is. Now with Mars in the 7th house, even though Mars in Pisces is much more softer and gentler, it's so easy. Like whenever a man, especially because Mars is more symbolic of the masculine, whereas Venus is more symbolic of the feminine, whenever I meet a man that's has a much more softer, gentler demeanor and mannerisms, I can always feel that Pisces energy in them. And many of them usually have Mars in Pisces. So even though Mars in Pisces is a very gentle energy, when it's in the 7th house, the 7th house is more of a reflection of other people and your relationships with other people. You got to be careful that Mars doesn't get argumentative, or there's not a lot of arguments and chaos happening with other people, because Mars can often get in power struggles, even though it's in Pisces, so it's a little more different. It can be more passive, but that's just something to be mindful with Mars in the 7th house. But a lot of relationship stuff happening, and then you've got a new moon in Pisces on March the 18th at 28 degrees. So this could be something developing, progressing further with relationships. This could be a change or even a new beginning. Now, this isn't an energy that you're not familiar with, because you've been going through the eclipses in your sign since last year. And on March the 3rd, you've got a total lunar eclipse happening in your sign at 12 degrees. And it's a south node eclipse because the lunar eclipse is closer to the south node, which means the past is very important during this time, and situations regarding the past, your identity, relationships, and other people, that is really shifting and changing, because we're coming to the end of the Pisces and Virgo eclipses, and this is a finale, like a grand finale. And with the lunar eclipse, there's almost like this emotional transformation, emotional release, emotional closure. And it has to do with you, your life, where you're headed, the past, how that's played a part, what the last year has meant for you, and how you're going to move forward. And relationships are key here as well, because the sun will be in Pisces. So take a look at your chart. If you have planets in Virgo at 12 degrees or close by, or even in Pisces at 12 degrees or close by, this is going to be a huge month for you. Moving on, we've got a lot of Aries energy on the way. So March the 6th, Venus, a planet of love and relationships, enters Aries. And then we also have the sun entering Aries on March the 20th, when we're going to have the spring equinox. And we already have Saturn and Neptune in Aries as well. So the 8th house is a continuation of the 7th house, where it's more about what you share with someone, intimacy, shared resources, intimacy, deep spiritual transformation as well. So with the 8th house and you having Venus there, this may be on relationship building and getting much more closer. This may involve what you share with them in regards to like resources. This could be also about just some deep spiritual transformations occurring in your life, things that you are really clearing out, navigating, building on, developing on. Like it's almost like you are really in that period of deep spiritual work and in transformation. So there's also a lot of focus in that area of life. And then we have also Jupiter going direct on March the 10th, which is occurring in your 11th house of friendships, goals, hopes, and wishes for the future. So now that energy is also going to expand further. So that's a really nice positive energy. We've got Mercury going direct on March the 20th. So a lot of that relationship stuff will start to move forward as well. So if there was any miscommunication, or you're having to like reevaluate, reassess, kind of work on your relationship with Mercury going direct, that energy is also going to start to develop and move forward. We've got Saturn in a sextile with Pluto happening on March the 28th. So Pluto's in your 6th house of daily life, routine, wellness, and work. And then you've got Saturn in your 8th house of shared finances, resources, deep spiritual transformation. So these two areas of life are also working or aligning together. There could be a new opportunity with that. And then March the 30th, we've got Venus entering Taurus, which will be entering your 9th house of higher mind, learning, and travel. So that's the area of life where you may find more pleasure, creativity, and passion. Virgo rising, it's a big month, especially for you. You got a lunar eclipse happening in your sign, and the closer the degree to this eclipse, or even if you don't have any of your Virgo placements close to that eclipse degree, this is still a big one for you, but it has a lot to do with endings and closure, because we are entering a new eclipse cycle, and this cycle is now coming to an end. So a good time for deep evaluation, reevaluation, reflection, and thinking about what the last year has meant for you and what have you learned and how are you integrating those lessons to move forward. I'm wishing you all the best. Lunar eclipse blessings to you, and I will speak with you soon. Libra rising, welcome to your March 2026 horoscope. March is eclipse season. We have Mercury retrograde that goes direct, Jupiter that goes direct, and we also have Saturn and Pluto in a very positive alignment. So there's a lot to get through. Let's kick off with all the Pisces energy happening in March. March the 2nd, Mars, a planet of action and energy, is moving into Pisces, and it will be impacting your 6th house of daily life, routine, health, wellness, as well as work. You already have a lot of energy here. You're going to have the Sun, Venus, as well as Mercury retrograde in this area of life. So there's a lot of concentration. There's a lot of analyzing, reassessing, going over certain areas of and aspects of this house. However, with Mars here, it's also going to kick things forward, and Mercury will be going direct on March the 20th, where you will feel things developing further. We also have a new moon in Pisces happening on March the 18th at 28 degrees, where there could be this new beginning, this new change, or development and progression occurring in terms of your daily life routine, wellness, how you take care of yourself, and work. So if you've been very much focused on this area of life, you can expect a lot of changes and shifts this month regarding the 6th house. let's move on to the total lunar eclipse happening in Virgo at 12 degrees on March the 3rd. This is happening in your 12th house. So the sun will be in the 6th house, but the moon will be in the 12th house, and that's also where the south node will be. So this is a south node eclipse happening in your 12th house, which is focusing a lot on past situations and energies coming up, resurfacing for a release, for change, for transformation, because this has to do with the moon and the past and the 12th house. There could be this emotional release that occurs. So think about last year and all the themes that have been occurring because you've gone through this energy before. But this is kind of like a finale because we're coming to a close with the Pisces and Virgo eclipses. So there's this kind of purge, this detox, this clearing, this emotional cleanse, energies from the past. Be very intentional of what you're ready to let go and what you're ready to release, and meditate. Imagine that leaving your life, anything that has been keeping you stuck or hasn't been serving you. Visualize that leaving and releasing out of your life, and what a relief that is, and how you feel lighter, how you feel renewed, because it's a time of healing and transformation. Let's get into all the Aries energy. March the 6th, Venus, the planet of love and relationships, enters Aries into your 7th house. So love, relationships will be very much emphasized. You already have Saturn and Neptune, so there's this new way of negotiating and also navigating relationships with Saturn and Neptune. It's more disciplined, it's more kind of very realistic, and it is really developing your relationships, although it can mean something completely different for each one of you. But Saturn and Neptune in the 7th house is really restructuring relationships, and yeah, there's an element of karma involved here, but also it's helping you to mature in relationships and look at where you've been kind of looking at relationships from rose-tinted glasses. But with Venus entering your 7th house, and then the sun will also enter your 7th house on March the 20th when we have the spring equinox, it's amplifying relationships. So relationships, love, and other people and partnerships will be a very huge focus of March for you as well. And there will be also developments occurring in this area of life. And it could also be very much connected with the eclipse. Jupiter goes direct on March the 10th, so this is impacting career goals and ambitions. So if there was a lot of going back and forth over this area of life, now this energy is moving forward. So there is expansion on the way. And remember, Jupiter can really bring a lot of good energy into your life, so that's something to look forward to. We have a positive energy occurring. Sorry, my TV just ended up coming up. We have a positive alignment coming up with Saturn and Pluto happening on March the 28th. So Saturn and Pluto will be in a sextile, Saturn being in your 7th house, Pluto being in your 5th house. So this could be really positive. These two areas of life working together. So 7th house, relationships, other people, partnerships. 5th house is creativity, joy, pleasure. Also has to do with romance and dating. So there could be this new shift or change happening with these two areas of life. And then also we have Venus entering Taurus on March the 30th, right at the end of the month, which will be entering your 8th house. So love and relationships will continue. They'll probably get a little more passionate, a little more intense. There may also be a focus on shared resources, intimacy, and deep spiritual transformation. So Libra rising, I'm wishing you all the best this month. Take care, and I'll speak with you soon. Hey Scorpio rising, welcome to your March 2026 forecast. So it's eclipse season, the eclipses are continuing in March. We've got Mercury retrograde, although Mercury does go direct this month. Jupiter also goes direct, and we have a positive alignment between Saturn and your ruler Pluto. So let's jump in. March the 2nd, we've got Mars, a planet of action, and your ruler entering watery Pisces. And there's a lot of Pisces energy in the month of March. We already have the Sun, Venus, Mercury retrograde, all in Pisces in your 5th house of joy, creativity, self-expression, the inner child. And this is the area of life that rules over fun. That is all very much highlighted in March with all those planets there. And then you got Mars, which is really bringing a lot of energy and action into this area of life where you're feeling more confident, more expressive, and very much creative. This is great for creativity because not only does Mars in Pisces excel in creativity, but also we've got a new moon in Pisces happening at 28 degrees on March the 18th, which could be the beginning of something new. This could be some type of development, something manifesting, planting seeds. This could be a time where you're creating, and it can be really good for you because Pisces is a very creative, inspirational energy, and because the fifth house rules over creative energy, creating, self-expression, this could be a really great time for you. So a lot of energy in the fifth house. Now remember, Mercury does go direct in March, on March the 20th, where the energy of this area of life will start to become more clearer and move forward. But during that process, there may be a lot of back and forth, but nonetheless, with Mars in Pisces, it can support you to express yourself through creative endeavors. Let's move on to the total lunar eclipse happening in the sign of Virgo at 12 degrees on March the 3rd. This is happening in your 11th house, and your 5th house is also being impacted because that's where the sun will be, but the moon in Virgo will occur in the 11th house of friendships, groups, networks, and your hopes and wishes for the future. The south node will also be here, so this is a south node eclipse, which means there is a lot of emphasis from the past and past situations, past themes coming up, and it's about letting go, releasing, and transformation. This could be an emotional cleanse, an emotional time of letting go, releasing, because this is a lunar eclipse, so there's a focus on the moon, which is emotions. And because we are coming to an end with the Virgo and Pisces eclipses, this is also kind of like a grand finale, a finale of the Virgo energy. Although that will continue throughout this year, we're still closing this chapter in this cycle. So this could have to do with friendships. It could have to do with groups, networks, and your hopes and wishes for the future and emotions. Now think about what the last year has meant for you, especially with this Virgo eclipse happening in your 11th house. That energy is continuing, but continuing in the way and the form of coming to its finale and coming to its end. So be very intentional of what you're ready to let go, release, and transform. Let's get into all the Aries energy. So we've got Venus entering Aries on March the 6th, a goddess of love and relationships entering fiery Aries. This will be impacting your 6th house. Now we also will have the sun join Venus on March the 20th when we've got the equinox. So there's a lot of energy in your 6th house of daily life, routine habits, how you take care of yourself, as well as work. You've got Saturn, Neptune, Venus, and the sun amplifying this area of life. So this is where there's also a lot of focus, a lot of developments, a lot of passion and pleasure, and a lot of vitality. And Saturn is also helping you to really get disciplined in this area of life. So if you're working on your daily life, how it's structured, or if you're trying to rebuild and focus on work, this could be a very supportive time. Jupiter goes direct on March the 10th, impacting your 9th house of travel, higher mind, higher learning. Where Jupiter loves being in the 9th house, it expands like no other in the 9th house because it's associated with the 9th house. Moving on, we have Mercury going direct on March the 20th, which I spoke about, so the energy of the 5th house will start to move forward and develop forward, and you'll start to get more clarity. We also have a positive alignment between Saturn, which is in the 6th house, and Pluto, your ruler, which is in the 4th house of home, family, roots, belonging, and security. So there's a very positive alignment between the two. We've got a sextile happening on March the 28th. So the 6th and the 4th house can be very much intertwined, and Saturn and Pluto can be working together, especially if you're very intentional, and they can bring forth a new positive outcome. March the 30th, Venus enters your opposite sign, Taurus. So Venus entering your 7th house of relationships and other people and partnerships. This is a time where relationships will also be very important, moving into April, where that energy will also start to get more intense as well, because it is in your opposite sign. And although it's in your opposite sign, and Venus in Taurus is very calm and collected, but there will be an opposition between the Scorpio energy. So get ready, because March is full of intensity and action. It is eclipse season, and I'm wishing you all the best, Scorpio rising, and I'll speak with you soon. Sag rising. Welcome to your March 2026 forecast. It's eclipse season. Yes, the eclipse energy is continuing in March. Mercury retrograde is continuing in March, but it does go direct. Jupiter goes direct, your ruler, as well as we've got this positive alignment between Saturn and Pluto. So let's jump in. March the 2nd, we've got Mars, a planet of action, entering Pisces, which means it is amplifying your fourth house of home, family, roots, and where you find your sense of belonging and where you go to retreat. There's a lot of focus on your fourth house. So you're going to have the Sun, Venus, Mercury retrograde, and Mars all in your fourth house. And that's showing there's a lot of concentration, a lot of focus, a lot of things happening at home. And with Mercury retrograde, there's a lot of going back and forth, perhaps renegotiating, analyzing, reassessing, reflecting, making some changes. So that's going to continue throughout March, although March the 20th, Mars will really support Mercury because Mercury goes direct on March the 20th. And when Mercury goes direct, and then you've also got Mars, which is all about moving forward, it's about action, taking charge, it's going to support you to not only just gain clarity and move forward, but move forward in a way that is going to really get things on track, because Mars doesn't move slowly, it's fast. Now, it is in Pisces, so it has more of like a watery, emotional sentiment and tone to it, but nonetheless, it's going to drive you forward. Now, we also have a new moon in Pisces on March the 18th at 28 degrees. So that can mark the beginning of something new happening in your fourth house. This could be a seeding point. This could be a time of progression or things moving forward as well. Now, you've been going through this energy for a while now. I mean, since last year, the eclipses have been occurring in your 4th and 10th house. So whatever's been going on in your life regarding home and family, especially if you have planets in Pisces or even Virgo, at either 12 degrees or 28 degrees or close by, this will be more profound for you. Speaking of eclipses, March the 3rd, we've got a total lunar eclipse in Virgo happening in your 10th house at 12 degrees of Virgo. This is a South Node eclipse because the South Node will be close by, and it is impacting your 10th house of career goals and ambitions. Now, lunar eclipses are about letting go, releasing, chapters and cycles coming to an end for a transformation to occur. Because this is a South Node eclipse and we're coming to kind of like a finale this year with the Virgo and Pisces eclipse energies, this could be a time of emotional releasing and emotional healing, emotional transformation, because this is a lunar eclipse, okay? So think about what the last year has meant for you in regards to the 10th house and what changes have been occurring, because this could be a time where especially if you're really intentional and you're being very clear on what it is you're ready to let go of so you can make space for what you really require, this could really support you in that process. So expect some transformation occurring regarding career goals and ambitions, especially if you have been on that journey. Moving on, we've got a lot of Aries energy as well. Venus, a goddess of love and relationships, enters Aries on March the 6th, entering your 5th house. The 5th house rules over creativity, joy, pleasure, also romance and dating, and Venus will be there. The Sun will enter this area of life on March the 20th when we have the spring equinox. Saturn and Neptune are in Aries, so there's also a lot of concentration and focus on your 5th house. This may be a time where romance relationships are very important to you. You're feeling very passionate, you're dating. Perhaps you are feeling very expressive, you're feeling very creative, and Saturn is providing you with the discipline. Neptune is providing you with that inspiration, and the Sun and Venus are supporting you to really express yourself and work on your creativity and make art from it. So that's a nice positive. Moving on, Jupiter goes direct on March the 10th. This is impacting your 8th house of shared resources, intimacy, and deep spiritual transformation. So this area of life is now moving forward. Therefore, it is also expanding. Moving on, we have a very nice aspect between Saturn and Pluto. We have a sextile happening on March the 28th. So Saturn is in your 5th house of joy, creativity, self-expression, and then you've got Pluto in your 3rd house of the mind, ideas, communication, learning. So these two areas of life are also working well, and if you put your energy in, you can create something really positive for yourself that supports you. Moving on, March the 30th, we've got Venus that enters Taurus. Venus will move out of your 5th house into your 6th house at the end of the month, where there will be more focus on your everyday life, routine, as well as how you take care of yourself and work. the sixth house will take a much more Venusian and feminine flair to it, and it can be very supportive in terms of how you're taking care of yourself, how your everyday life is structured, as well as work. So Sag Rising, wishing you all the best this month. It's lunar eclipse season, so may it work in your favor, and I'll speak with you soon. Take care. Cap Rising, welcome to your horoscope for March 2026. It's eclipse season as well as Mercury retrograde season, although Mercury retrograde does go direct, Jupiter goes direct, and we have your ruler Saturn in a positive alignment with Pluto. So let's jump in. March the 2nd, Mars, a planet of action, enters Pisces, which means it's entering your third house. Now, there's a lot of energy in your third house, and the third house will be a very concentrated area for you. You've got the Sun, you've got Venus, and Mercury retrogrades kicking off in your third house in the month of March, and then you've got Mars entering your third house. And what is the third house? This rules over your mind, ideas, communication, and your daily travels. So that is going to be a highlight of this month. And then you also have a new moon in Pisces happening at 28 degrees on March the 18th. So there could be something that develops further or progresses further as well during this time. Now, this energy is familiar to you because there's been a lot of energy, a lot of activations happening since last year due to the eclipses. So you're probably already familiar with this energy in this area of life, but with this new moon in Pisces, and then also when we get to March the 20th and Mercury goes direct, these could be turning points in regards to the third house, whether you are working on projects that require a lot of creative ideas, or you're working with communication, or there's some important conversations to have, or if you're traveling and you're making important journeys. And Mars in the third house is also showing being on the go. So a lot developing further with the third house. Then we have a lunar eclipse, a total lunar eclipse happening in the sign of Virgo on March the 3rd. And that is going to be a very interesting eclipse because it's a south node eclipse. It's happening at 12 degrees in the ninth house of your mind, higher learning, education. This is where you also find your spiritual beliefs, faith, and travel, long distance journeys. So with this eclipse happening in the ninth house is also an energy you're probably familiar with because the eclipses have also been occurring in the ninth house. During this eclipse, the sun will be in the third house and the moon will be in the ninth house. Because it's a total lunar eclipse, there is a focus on the lunar energy, which is emotional energy. So there could be this release, there could be some clearing away, there could be some sort of ending, some sort of transformation that occurs regarding the ninth house. And it's kind of like a finale energy because we are closing off the Pisces and Virgo eclipses this year. So there may be something that you're already aware of that's occurring in your life. And this may be another kind of like turning point or activation or a release happening. Moving on, there's a lot of Aries energy happening as well in March. Venus, the goddess of love and relationships, enters Aries on March the 6th, which will be impacting your fourth house. The house of home, family, security, your sense of belonging, where you go to retreat. The sun also will be joining the fourth house. We'll have the sun moving into Aries on March the 20th, when we'll also have the spring equinox. And Saturn and Neptune are also in Aries in your fourth house, so there is a lot of energy in the fourth house as well. So you can expect a lot of developments and progressions happening here. Venus brings a lot of pleasure. This could also be connected to relationships. The sun brings a lot of vitality, light, and this is also like a center focus of the month. With Saturn, there's a lot of discipline and restructuring, and with Neptune, there's a lot of sentiment involved here as well. Moving on, we have Mercury that goes direct on March the 20th, so the third house will start to become more clearer and things will start to get more into perspective and move forward in a positive direction. We also have Jupiter going direct on March the 10th in your seventh house of relationships and other people. So if you've been going through some relationship stuff, revisiting or reanalyzing or focusing on relationships, this energy is moving forward, and hopefully it's moving in a positive direction, bringing forth expansion and blessings. Moving on, March the 28th, we have Saturn and Pluto making a positive sextile. So Saturn will be in your fourth house of home and family, Pluto in your second house of what you own, resources, and self-worth. These two areas of life are bringing forth a positive opportunity. So if you're intentional and you're working towards a goal that is in alignment with these two areas of life, there could be this positive outcome that occurs. March the 30th, at the end of the month, Venus enters Taurus, which will move into your fifth house of creativity, joy, happiness, pleasure, and romance and dating. Venus loves being in the fifth house, so this is going to be a really nice energy and transit moving into April as well. So Cap Rising, I'm wishing you all the best. Happy lunar eclipse, and may it work in your favor. Take care, and I'll speak with you soon. Hi Aquarius Rising, welcome to your March forecast. So March is a continuation of eclipse season. We got another eclipse happening. It's Mercury retrograde season, although Mercury does go direct. Jupiter goes direct, and also we have a nice positive Saturn and Pluto alignment happening. So let's talk about it. March the 2nd, Mars, a planet of action, enters Pisces, joining the Sun, Venus, and Mercury retrograde in your second house. There's a deep focus and concentration regarding the second house, which rules over what you own, resources. This is about abundance and self-worth. So with Mercury retrograde, there's a lot of reassessing, reanalyzing, re-evaluating, and perhaps going over this area of life and past situations regarding and connected to this area of life, with Mars heads giving you more stamina, confidence, and drive to navigate through all that. Now, not only is Mars pushing that forward and supporting you, Mercury will go direct on March the 20th, where this area of life will start to get more clearer, there'll be more clarity and move forward. But we also have a new moon in Pisces happening at 28 degrees on March the 18th. So, new moon, sun and moon in the second house in Pisces. There could be this new beginning, a new shift, a new change. This could be a time of being very intentional, planting seeds, and also something developing further and forward regarding matters of the second house. This is an energy you're familiar with because we've been going through the eclipses in the second and eighth house since last year. So, whatever you've been working towards or you're dealing with, there could be this positive outcome happening on March the 18th or a development occurring that supports you. So be very intentional of what it is that you want to accomplish and achieve regarding the second house. March 3rd, we got a total lunar eclipse happening in the sign of Virgo at 12 degrees. This eclipse is a south node eclipse. The south node will also be in Virgo, close to this eclipse, in the 8th house. Now, the sun will be in the second house, but the moon will be in the 8th house. So emotionally, there's a lot of focus on what you share with others. So whether it being resources, whether it being intimacy, whether it being also just the deep spiritual transformation that's occurring in your life, there is this transformation happening emotionally. There's this purging, releasing, clearing away a lot of baggage. Now, because we are coming to a finale with the Pisces and Virgo eclipses, this is supporting and letting go of all that you have gone through since last year regarding this area of life, all that you've absorbed, experienced, and the energies. It's time to let it all go, release it. So be very intentional of what it is you are letting go of, energetically, emotionally, what you're ready to let go of spiritually as well. Be very intentional because this is a very emotionally healing time. There's also a lot of Aries energy happening in the month of March. March the 6th, Venus enters Aries. The goddess of love and relationships will be joining Saturn and Neptune in the 3rd house. The sun will also move into Aries on March the 20th. This is also when we're having the spring equinox. So with the 3rd house energy, it's a lot about the mind, thinking, ideas, communication, and your daily travels. So there's a lot of focus there. Venus bringing a lot of pleasure, passion, and also this could be connected to relationships where you're having deep conversations, or you're learning a lot about each other, or working towards communication, or there's some important conversations happening. The sun bringing vitality and a lot of focus, Saturn bringing a lot of structure, discipline, and Neptune bringing a lot of inspiration and sentiment in this area of life. So that's a very important area of life in March as well. Jupiter goes direct on March the 10th. This is happening in your 6th house, where it's time to move forward and expand in terms of your daily life routine, wellness, and work. So that's a positive. We also have Mercury going direct on March the 20th. So the 2nd house will start to move forward and progress forward, and it will bring more clarity into your life. We also have a positive aspect between Saturn and Pluto happening on March the 28th. This is happening in your 3rd house and 1st house. Now, Pluto is in your sign, and Saturn is in the 3rd house of the mind, of thinking, ideas, when it comes to learning, analyzing, communication, daily travels. 1st house has to do with your identity. It has to do with what you want to achieve out of this life path, and purpose. So be very intentional of what it is you want to achieve, because these two energies are in alignment, a positive alignment. So if you work towards something, especially regarding these two areas of life, there could be this positive outcome. March the 30th, Venus enters Taurus, and it will enter your 4th house of home, family life, and where you find a sense of belonging, where you retreat. So there could be a lot of sentiment, a lot of love involved here, a lot of pleasure found at home, a lot of creativity, but also there could be a lot of focus on relationships at home. So Aquarius rising, I'm wishing you all the best. I mean, are you still recovering from all that Aquarius and Leo energy from last month? Because I sure am. I'm wishing you all the best this month. Take care, and I will speak with you soon. Pisces rising, welcome to your March 2026 forecast. So we have a lunar eclipse happening in your opposite sign in March. We also have a lot of Pisces energy. We have Mercury retrograde in your sign, but it does go direct. Jupiter also goes direct, and we've got a positive alignment between Saturn and Pluto. So let's get started. March the 2nd, Mars, a planet of action, enters your sign. So this is giving you a lot of drive, stamina, a lot of energy, and a lot of confidence. It's happening in your 1st house, where it will join the Sun and Venus and Mercury retrograde. Now, there's a lot of focus on you, your identity, what you want from life purpose, life path, some of the goals that you want to achieve. There's a lot of drive and stamina here with Mars. And even though Mercury is in retrograde and there may be some navigating over past situations regarding your life and your goals, or reassessing, reflecting, and then thinking about what it is you really want and who you really are and what makes up your identity, Mars is going to give you that drive and that confidence. Now, on March the 20th, Mercury does go direct, so that energy will start to clear away and things will start to move forward. Mars is also giving you a lot of creativity, because Venus is also in your 1st house, so will the Sun be. So there's a lot of creativity here to explore. You may feel a little emotional, you may feel a little overwhelmed because of all that energy. So please take care of yourself, because we also have a lunar eclipse happening on March the 3rd. But before I get into the lunar eclipse, I want to also add that on March the 18th, we got your annual new moon happening. So the Sun and the Moon will be in Pisces on March the 18th at 28 degrees. So if you have planets at the end of Pisces, this is going to be more significant for you. So this is a time of planting seeds, being very intentional. This is your annual new moon. So you're one of the main characters, and it is shining on you. So because this is about you and your identity, life path, and purpose, think about the goals you have. Think about what it is you want, you desire, what it is you want to achieve. This could also be a positive energy that supports you in moving forward in your life. This could be a turning point, an activation. Now, this is an energy that you're familiar with, because since last year, you've been going through the eclipses in your sign and your opposite sign. Even though this isn't an eclipse, it is activating your 1st house. So it's very much important, and it is going to shift and change things. Now, speaking of the eclipses, we do have an eclipse on March the 3rd, the 2nd day after Mars enters Pisces. So this eclipse is impacting your first house, but also the seventh house. Now, the moon in Virgo and the south node will be in the seventh house. This is ruling over relationships and other people, and it's very significant. This has a lot to do with the past and endings and closure, emotional healing, a release, detoxing, purging, and also this is a time of renewal and transformation because this is a lunar eclipse. There's a focus on lunar, which is emotions, right? So all that you've been going through since last year, think about what it is you're ready to let go of. Be very intentional because it's supporting you in that emotional healing, in that spiritual healing, in letting go of all that does not serve you. We're coming to an end with these Pisces and Virgo eclipses. So this is kind of like a finale energy, and it's supporting you to really let it all out, let it all go. So take some time to be very intentional regarding this eclipse and what it is you're ready to let go. This eclipse will occur at 12 degrees of Virgo, so take a look at your chart. If you have 12 degrees of Pisces or Virgo, this is going to be a pivotal time for you. And remember, eclipses can impact all aspects of life, but there is a very strong focus on emotional healing. There's also a lot of Aries energy occurring in the month of March. We got Venus, the goddess of love and relationships, entering Aries on March the 6th. The Sun enters Aries on March the 20th. The same day we have the spring equinox, and also Mercury goes direct during this time. This Aries energy is amplifying your second house of what you own, resources, as well as self-worth. You got Saturn and Neptune in the second house as well. So a lot of focus here. There's a lot of vitality, a lot of creativity, perhaps a lot of self-worth coming up for you during this time, working on that, developing further on that. Saturn is supporting you to be more disciplined regarding this area of your life and your attitude towards money. Neptune can sometimes be very inspired, but Saturn is supporting Neptune to become more disciplined and focused as well. So that is a very highlighted area of life, which is also moving forward and developing forward. Jupiter goes direct on March the 10th, which is supporting you with how you experience joy, pleasure, have fun, creativity, and self-expression. So this area of life is also expanding. Remember, Jupiter loves being the fifth house. So this could be a time of just a lot of positivity, a lot of creativity, and a lot of fun, which is always needed. So March the 28th, Saturn and Pluto will be in a sextile. Saturn being in your second house, Pluto being in your 12th house. These two areas of life are very much supporting each other. So if you're very intentional of what it is you want to achieve regarding the 12th and second house, this energy can support you to move forward in a positive direction. Venus enters Taurus on March the 30th, right at the end of the month, which will enter your third house of the mind and communication and daily travels, where you will perhaps be a little more creative in how you think. You may find a lot of joy in traveling, and romance and relationships can play a part, and so can communication and coming together mentally and having really good conversations, or even traveling can be a good time with Venus in the third house. So Pisces rising, I'm wishing you all the best. This is an important month for you, and I'll speak with you soon.